This short video explains how to use your OPG in Sidexis 4, specifically for those of you that have upgraded your software recently. So you could add a patient from down here, but don't do that if you're using a link from your practice management software. If you mix and match the two, you'll get different numbers, which will end up with two patients on the same database. So don't do that. But just to know, if you don't use a link from your practice management software, you add there. If not, use your link. So when you use your bridging link from your practice management software, it will come through to the correct patient. Now, you can either click on down here on the bottom right, register and timeline, or register and exposure. So register and exposure would be the one to click if you wanted to actually take a new OPG for this patient. So register and exposure, click on there, and there would be a picture of your OPG here. Now, I'm not connected to anything, this is my demonstration laptop, but if you did click on the picture of your OPG, it would connect to your OPG and you get a little pop-up window with a green flashing light to say you're ready to take your x-ray. If you're using sensors, then you'd be clicking here. Again, I'm not connected to anything at the moment. So if I go back a step, it's a left to right workflow in Sidexis 4. So here, instead of clicking on register and exposure, if I wanted to see the images for this patient, if I click on register and timeline, this shows me a timeline for this patient. And if I use my mouse wheel, I can scroll backwards and forwards in time, and I can look at all my images there. So you see you've got intraoral there. If you've got a CBCT, then they'll be there, and OPG's here. So if I wanted to look at one from the past, so say I wanted this one, I just double click on that one, and there it is there. You've got a few tools. Most of them are more for CBCT than for a 2D OPG, but there are some things, like for example here, you can, and the good thing about Sidexis 4 is you hover over it and it tells you what it does, so you don't really have to remember anything. But this one, for example, if you wanted to alter the brightness, if I click on there, it's one of those, I'm just holding down my left mouse button, going up and down for the brightness, left and right for the contrast. You can also change those individually from here. So if I wanted to change, say, just the contrast, there's a slider here. It's all quite self-explanatory, and this one puts it back to where it was. So they are by default 50%, but if you change anything, you can always get back to the original by clicking there. So that's how you change the brightness and contrast. You're probably not really going to do measuring on here, I imagine, but for intraorals you might use these. But and some of these, as I say, for CBCT. Compare is a useful feature. So if I click up here, and if you can't see that on yours, it'll be because this little arrow has kind of collapsed it down. So if you click on this little arrow, you've got a compare button here. Lightbox just means whatever you're seeing here. So if I click on compare, if I want to compare this image here to a past image from maybe last year, if I click here, then I select the image that I want to compare to from last year. So say it was this one, opening current. So now I've got two images side by side. And obviously these are two different ones, but you can scroll in and out in synchronized way. So imagine this was the same patient 1 year, 2 year, you can scroll in and out and compare one area. So if I click on this tooth here and scroll in and out, it will zoom in on there. If I click on this tooth here and zoom in and out, it will zoom in there. Do you see? If you don't want them to synchronize, I can right click and I can desynchronize. And so now they'll be independent of each other. But most of the time that synchronizes is a good thing to do. So see down here, it says workspaces at the bottom of the screen. I've got two workspaces. Or three actually. I've got the compare one that I'm on now, and the lightbox one where I was before, and that's a previous one I was looking at. So if you open up other images, then they're here in your workspaces. So when you finish comparing, you can click here and that will be gone, and you'll be back to your lightbox. Then for OPGs, really the only other thing you're likely to really want is, well, you might want to put a diagnosis on there. So if you wanted to, you can put a finding on here. So you can type anything you like here, and that will be there on that image until you decide to remove it at any point. So that's how you put notes on. You could put a note on a specific tooth by doing that, and typing anything you like, and again it will be there until you delete it. So output, obviously, if you want to send this OPG to somebody, that's where you click. And you can do it in a number of ways. So here's the two images I had open. So say I only wanted to send that one, then I'd highlight it and click here. If I wanted to send both of them, I'd click here. You see? So if I just wanted this one, I would click here, and it will put it here for the export. And if I click on export, it exports it, and you might think, well, where's it gone? It'll go wherever you've got in your settings. So up here on the D, if I click here, you've got some settings here, and there's one that's called 2D export settings, and I've got mine exporting to my desktop, so that's where it's gone. You can change that, of course, just by clicking here. So if you want to make a new folder on your desktop, then click there, make a new folder, and then your images will export there, make it easier to find. And then you can choose to export them in one of those formats. JPEG, obviously, anyone can open at home. So that's that. If I go back a step, so there are other ways of sending things, but these are more for CBCT. So send it that way. So once it's exported, then obviously you can attach it to an email or send it by WeTransfer or however you send things. So simple as that, really, nothing complicated. So the examination tab here, this is where we were on what they call the light box here. So here we've got the start, which you won't really use. We've got patient. As I say, it should come through to that from your link in your practice management software, unless you're not using a link, in which case click here, but only click here if you're not using a link. Then you've got the exposure tab, and then your examination tab, which is grayed out for me because I haven't chosen something. So where were we? We were on the demonstration one. So now I'm here and I click on register and timeline. Now I'm back here and can choose one to open. And now the examination tab is highlighted because we're now in the light box. Plan and treat, that would only be for CBCT. Output is to send the OPG to a referring dentist, for example. And then you've got your compare function here. So all quite straightforward once you're used to working with it. You do have a couple of other things here, like session gallery and gallery. So gallery is, all your past images for that particular patient. That's just another way of looking at them. Session gallery, not really so relevant for OPG, but say you're seeing a patient today and you've gone into the patient and you've gone into the timeline and you've selected an OPG and maybe a few. So let me drag that down. So I've selected an OPG. Maybe I want to select some intraoral images as well. So let me go and find some. Yeah, so maybe I want that one, and maybe I want a couple of these as well. So I just drag down whatever I want and I click on Lightbox and it will open them all in the Lightbox for me. So there's all those images. Now, say the patient's coming back next week, I can actually save that if I want to as a session. So if I click on Session Gallery and I click on Save As, then it will save it as that session, save. So I've now got a new session. So next time I go into the patient, so say it's this patient, register and timeline. You see now I've got this up here called sessions. That wasn't there before, now it is. So if I click on sessions, there's that session I saved. So it just saves you having to go and search for those same images again next week. So if you've got a patient coming in this week and you've dragged down those images and you think, oh, next week when they come, I'd like to see those images again, that's the way to do it. So in our session gallery, there's the session we created. On the workspaces here, we've now got these two. So we've got the one here with our session on, and then we've got the other one we had before because we just opened that one. Hopefully that all makes sense. I hope that helps.